What would you do if you discovered your dream job was built on a lie? Maya Washington adjusted her worn leather purse strap for the third time as she stood before the towering iron gates of the Riverside Estate in Greenwich, Connecticut. The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawns that stretched beyond her view, a stark contrast to the cramped apartment in Bridgeport she had left behind at dawn. At 34, Maya had cleaned offices in downtown Hartford, scrubbed floors at Yale New Haven Hospital, and worked double shifts at a nursing home in Waterbury. But she had never set foot in a mansion that rivaled the grand estates she had only seen in magazines. The job posting had been simple: housekeeper needed, experience preferred, competitive wages, references required. What it hadn't mentioned was the intimidating grandeur of the property or the gnawing anxiety that had kept Maya awake the previous night. She had applied to dozens of positions over the past month, each rejection stinging more than the last. The economy had been unforgiving to women like her, single mothers without college degrees, carrying the weight of systemic barriers that seemed invisible to those who had never faced them. Her daughter Jasmine, only 8 years old, had asked her that morning why she looked so nervous. Maya had forced a smile and said, "Mama's just trying to find us a better life, baby girl." But the truth was more complex. Every job interview felt like walking through a minefield of unspoken judgments, where her qualifications were measured not just by her experience but by assumptions about her character, her reliability, her worthiness. The intercom crackled to life, startling her from her thoughts. "Ms. Washington?" The voice was young, male, and surprisingly warm. "Please come up to the main house. I'm Alexander Bennett." As the gate swung open with a mechanical hum, Maya walked up the winding driveway lined with ancient oak trees. The mansion loomed ahead, a Georgian colonial with pristine white columns and windows that gleamed like mirrors in the morning light. She had researched Alexander Bennett the night before, finding articles in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal about the 28-year-old tech entrepreneur who had sold his startup to Microsoft for $200 million. The photos showed a clean-cut young man with kind eyes, but Maya had learned not to trust first impressions. The front door opened before she could knock. Alexander Bennett stood there in jeans and a simple white button-down shirt, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He was tall and lean, with brown hair that looked like he had run his fingers through it and a genuine smile that immediately put Maya at ease. "Ms. Washington, thank you for coming. Please, come in." He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. "Can I offer you some coffee? Water? I just brewed a fresh pot." Maya stepped into the marble foyer, her eyes drawn to the crystal chandelier overhead and the sweeping staircase that curved toward the second floor. "Coffee would be nice, thank you." Her voice was steady, professional, but inside she was cataloging every detail, every potential pitfall. They walked through rooms that seemed to belong in a museum, a living room with furniture that probably cost more than Maya's annual rent, a dining room with a table that could seat 20, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with leather-bound volumes. But what struck her most was how lived-in it all felt, how Alexander moved through the space with casual comfort rather than the pretentious air she had expected. In the kitchen, a chef's dream with granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and a breakfast nook overlooking the garden, Alexander poured 2 cups of coffee from an expensive-looking machine. "Cream? Sugar?" he asked, and when Maya nodded, he prepared her cup with the same care he took with his own. They sat at the breakfast table, the morning light streaming through the windows and casting everything in a golden glow. Alexander leaned forward, his expression serious but not stern. "I want to be upfront with you, Ms. Washington. I know this position might seem straightforward, but I'm looking for more than just someone to clean. I need someone I can trust, someone who understands that this house isn't just where I live, it's where I work, where I think, where I try to figure out how to make a difference in the world." Maya sipped her coffee, surprised by its richness. "What kind of difference?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Education technology," he said, his eyes lighting up. "My next project is focused on creating learning platforms for underserved communities. I grew up with every advantage imaginable, and I can't ignore the fact that there are brilliant kids out there who don't get the same opportunities just because of where they were born or what their parents do for a living." For the first time since arriving, Maya felt her shoulders relax. There was something in his tone, an authenticity that she hadn't expected. "That sounds important," she said. "My daughter goes to school in Bridgeport. The computers there are older than she is." Alexander's face grew serious. "That's exactly the problem I'm trying to solve. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Tell me about your experience, your expectations for this position." Maya had rehearsed this part, but sitting across from Alexander, she found herself speaking more honestly than she had planned. "I've been cleaning professionally for 12 years. I take pride in my work, and I'm reliable. I show up on time, I do what needs to be done, and I don't cause drama. I have a daughter who depends on me, so this job isn't just about paying bills, it's about building a future for her. What's her name? Alexander asked. Jasmine. She's 8, and she's the smartest, funniest little girl you've ever met. She wants to be a doctor when she grows up. Maya's voice softened when she spoke about her daughter, the love evident in every word. I'd like to meet her sometime, if that's okay with you, Alexander said. I believe the people who work in my home should feel comfortable bringing their families around for special occasions, holidays, that sort of thing. This is a workplace, but it's also a community. Maya studied his face, looking for any sign of insincerity, but found none. You'd really be okay with that? More than okay. I think it's important. Alexander set down his coffee cup and leaned back in his chair. Ms. Washington, I want to offer you this position. The salary is $75,000 a year, plus health insurance, 2 weeks paid vacation, and performance bonuses. You'd work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, with occasional evening events where I might need extra help. Does that sound fair? Maya nearly choked on her coffee. $75,000 was more than she had made in her best year, and the benefits were beyond anything she had dared hope for. That's very generous, Mr. Bennett. Please, call me Alex. And it's not generous, it's what good work deserves. When can you start? Maya's first week at the Bennett estate passed in a blur of learning routines, memorizing the layout of the sprawling house, and adjusting to a work environment unlike anything she had experienced. The mansion had 12 rooms on the main floor alone, including a home office that looked like something out of a technology magazine, complete with multiple computer monitors, whiteboards covered in equations and diagrams, and shelves lined with books on artificial intelligence, education theory, and social justice. What surprised Maya most was how Alex treated her, and more importantly, how he treated everyone who worked in the house. There was Margaret O'Sullivan, the head cook who had immigrated from County Cork 30 years ago and spoke with a thick Irish accent that grew more pronounced when she was excited about a recipe. There was Carlos Mendoza, the groundskeeper who maintained the gardens with an artist's eye and spoke passionately about sustainable landscaping practices. And there was Janet Phillips, the personal assistant who had worked for Alex's family for 15 years and managed his schedule with military precision. On her third day, Maya was dusting the bookshelves in Alex's office when she overheard a phone conversation that made her pause. Alex was speaking to someone about a scholarship program he was funding at inner-city schools in New Haven, Hartford, and Bridgeport. I don't care about the publicity, he was saying, his voice firm. In fact, I'd prefer if my name wasn't attached to it at all. These kids don't need a savior complex, they need resources and opportunities. Make sure the money goes directly to the schools, and let them decide how best to use it. Maya continued dusting, but she was listening intently. She had heard wealthy people talk about charity before, usually as a way to make themselves look good or get tax breaks. But Alex sounded different, frustrated by the very idea that his generosity might be seen as self-serving. That afternoon, as Maya was cleaning the guest bathroom on the second floor, she encountered Patricia Whitmore for the first time. Patricia was Alex's interior designer, a woman in her 50s with perfectly styled blonde hair and clothes that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. She was examining fabric samples for new curtains when Maya knocked on the doorframe. "Excuse me, I just need to clean in here quickly," Maya said politely. Patricia looked up, her blue eyes taking in Maya's uniform, simple black pants and a white polo shirt with the Bennett Estate logo. "Oh, you're the new help," she said, her tone cordial but distant. "I'm Patricia Whitmore. I've been working with the Bennett family for 8 years now. Nice to meet you. I'm Maya Washington." Patricia nodded and moved aside, but Maya caught something in her expression, a flicker of something that might have been annoyance or disapproval. It was subtle, the kind of look Maya had become expert at reading over the years. She finished her work quickly and efficiently, but she filed the interaction away in her mind. Over the following days, Maya began to notice things about Patricia that made her uncomfortable. The designer was always perfectly professional around Alex, discussing color schemes and furniture arrangements with enthusiasm and expertise. But when Alex wasn't around, Patricia's demeanor changed. She spoke to Carlos in slow, loud English, as if he couldn't understand her, despite the fact that he had lived in Connecticut for 20 years and spoke perfect English. She was dismissive of Margaret's suggestions about the kitchen layout, calling her ideas quaint and old-fashioned. And with Maya, she was coolly polite in a way that felt deliberately condescending. "The new girl seems nice enough," Maya overheard Patricia telling Janet one afternoon. "Though I do worry about security, bringing in people from, well, you know the area she's from. Bridgeport has such a reputation." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept working, organizing Alex's bookshelf with methodical precision. She had heard comments like this before, couched in concern for security or standards, but really about assumptions and prejudices that people thought they were hiding. What bothered Maya even more was that Patricia seemed to be positioning herself as somehow essential to Alex's life and work. She lingered after their meetings, asking about his weekend plans and offering to help with personal projects. She made comments about how the house needed a woman's touch, and how lonely it must be for a young man to live in such a big place by himself. Maya tried to focus on her work and ignore Patricia's behavior, but it became increasingly difficult. The designer had a way of making subtle comments that seemed innocent on the surface but carried undertones that made Maya's skin crawl. When Alex praised Maya's work ethic during a staff meeting, Patricia smiled and said, "It's so wonderful when people really appreciate the opportunities they're given." The comment hit Maya like a slap. She had earned her position through years of hard work and dedication, not through charity or luck. But she bit her tongue and continued with her responsibilities, knowing that speaking up could cost her the job that meant so much to her and Jasmine's future. It was during her second week that Maya first noticed Patricia paying unusual attention to Alex's personal documents. She was in his office, supposedly measuring for new window treatments, but Maya saw her glance at papers on his desk and linger near his computer when he stepped out to take a phone call. "Just getting some measurements," Patricia said when she noticed Maya watching her. "Alex wants everything perfect for his upcoming business meetings." Maya nodded but made a mental note. Something about Patricia's behavior felt wrong, though she couldn't yet put her finger on what it was. All she knew was that her instincts, honed by years of navigating difficult situations and reading people's true intentions, were telling her to pay attention. That evening, as Maya drove home to Bridgeport, she thought about the strange dynamic she was witnessing. Alex treated everyone with genuine respect and kindness, but Patricia seemed to have her own agenda. Maya had seen enough workplace drama to know that trouble was brewing, but she also knew that as the newest employee, and the one with the most to lose, she needed to be careful about how she handled whatever was coming. 3 weeks into her employment, Maya had settled into a comfortable rhythm at the Bennett estate. She arrived each morning at 7:30, made herself a cup of coffee in the kitchen with Margaret, and began her day by tidying Alex's office and preparing the spaces he would use for his various meetings and work sessions. Alex was an early riser who often spent the pre-dawn hours in his home gym or reading in the library, and he always greeted Maya with genuine warmth when their paths crossed. "Good morning, Maya. How's Jasmine doing with her science project?" he asked one Tuesday morning, remembering a conversation they had had the previous week about her daughter's school assignment on renewable energy. "She's building a solar-powered car out of a shoebox," Maya replied, smiling. "She's been talking about it nonstop. She wants to be an engineer now instead of a doctor." "Smart girl. The world needs more engineers like her," Alex said, and Maya could tell he meant it. "If she needs any materials or books, let me know. I have some great resources on sustainable technology." It was interactions like these that made Maya appreciate her job beyond the financial security it provided. Alex saw her as a whole person, not just someone who cleaned his house. He remembered details about her life, asked thoughtful questions, and treated her with the kind of respect that Maya had rarely experienced in previous jobs. But Patricia's behavior continued to trouble her. The interior designer had been spending more time at the house, claiming that Alex's upcoming business launch required extensive redesigning of his office and meeting spaces. Maya noticed that Patricia always seemed to have excuses to be in Alex's private areas when he wasn't around, and she had a habit of asking probing questions about his schedule, his business associates, and his personal life. "Alex seems so stressed lately," Patricia said to Maya one afternoon while they were both in the office. "All these meetings with investors and lawyers. Do you know if he's been having any problems with his business partners?" Maya looked up from organizing Alex's filing cabinet. "I wouldn't know about his business affairs," she said carefully. "That's not really my area." "Of course not," Patricia said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I just worry about him. He works so hard, and he's so trusting. Sometimes I think people might take advantage of his generous nature." The comment struck Maya as odd, particularly because Patricia herself seemed to be taking advantage of Alex's generous nature by extending her project timeline and billing hours for work that didn't seem to require her constant presence. Maya's suspicions deepened when she accidentally witnessed a phone conversation that Patricia didn't know she was overhearing. Maya had been cleaning the guest powder room adjacent to the library when Patricia entered to take a call, apparently thinking the area was empty. "No, I'm telling you, this is our chance," Patricia was saying in a hushed but urgent tone. "He's completely vulnerable right now with all the legal documentation for the new company. If we can make it look like he's been embezzling from the charity funds, we can force him to settle out of court. He'll pay anything to avoid a scandal that could destroy his reputation." Maya's blood ran cold. She pressed herself against the bathroom wall, hardly daring to breathe as she listened to Patricia continue the conversation. I have access to his office, his computer, his financial records. I can create the paper trail we need. Make it look like he's been skimming money from the scholarship program and using it for personal expenses. The beauty is that he's so involved in the charity work that he has legitimate access to everything. We just need to make the legitimate look illegitimate. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she was afraid Patricia might hear it. She remained frozen in place until she heard Patricia's footsteps moving away from the library. Then she carefully made her way out of the bathroom and back to her cleaning supplies. The magnitude of what she had overheard was staggering. Patricia wasn't just taking advantage of Alex's generosity, she was actively plotting to destroy him. Maya thought about the scholarship program Alex had been funding, the genuine passion in his voice when he talked about helping underprivileged students. She thought about the respect he showed everyone who worked for him, the way he had given her a chance when other employers had dismissed her without a second thought. But Maya also thought about her own precarious position. She was a single mother with no college degree, working in a job that was better than anything she had ever hoped for. If she made accusations against Patricia without solid proof, who would believe her? Patricia was a well-established professional with connections throughout Connecticut's elite social circles. Maya was a housekeeper from Bridgeport. That evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table in her small apartment, helping Jasmine with her homework while wrestling with her conscience. The right thing to do was clear, but the safe thing to do was equally clear. She could keep her head down, do her job, and hope that whatever Patricia was planning wouldn't succeed. Or she could take a risk that might cost her everything she had worked for. "Mama, you look worried," Jasmine said, looking up from her math worksheet. "Is everything okay?" Maya smoothed her daughter's hair and forced a smile. "Just thinking about work stuff, baby. Nothing for you to worry about." But as she helped Jasmine solve fraction problems, Maya made her decision. Alex had treated her with dignity and respect from the moment she walked through his door. He had seen her worth when others had dismissed her. He was using his wealth and privilege to try to make a difference in the world, to help kids like Jasmine who deserved better opportunities than the circumstances of their birth had provided. She couldn't stand by and watch Patricia destroy him. She wouldn't be able to live with herself if she stayed silent while someone who had shown her such kindness was betrayed by someone he trusted. The next morning, Maya arrived at work with a plan. She would need to be careful, methodical, and patient. She would need to gather evidence and find a way to protect Alex without putting herself in danger. It wouldn't be easy, but Maya had faced difficult situations before. She had survived poverty, discrimination, and the challenge of raising a daughter alone. She had the strength to do what was right, even if it meant risking everything she had gained. Maya spent the next several days walking a tightrope between her regular duties and her covert mission to protect Alex from Patricia's scheme. She had to be careful not to arouse suspicion while positioning herself to overhear conversations and observe Patricia's activities. The task required all of her skills at reading people and situations, abilities she had developed over years of navigating workplaces where she couldn't afford to make enemies or misstep. Her opportunity came when Alex announced that he would be traveling to Silicon Valley for a series of investor meetings related to his education technology project. He would be gone for 4 days, leaving Patricia with unprecedented access to his office and personal documents. "Maya, I'm going to need you to keep an eye on things while I'm away," Alex said on the Friday before his departure. "Margaret will handle the household management, but I'd appreciate if you could make sure my office stays organized. I'll be doing video calls from California, and I want everything to look professional." "Of course, Mr. Bennett, Alex," Maya corrected herself. "I'll make sure everything is perfect." Patricia was also in the office that morning, finalizing measurements for what she claimed were new built-in bookshelves. "Don't worry about Alex," she said with a laugh. "I'll be here Monday and Tuesday working on the renovations. I'll keep Maya company and make sure she doesn't get lonely in this big house." Maya felt a chill at Patricia's words, but she simply nodded and continued organizing Alex's desk. She had already made arrangements for Jasmine to stay with her neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez after school for the next few days, knowing that she might need to work late to document whatever Patricia was planning. On Monday morning, Maya arrived at the estate to find Patricia already there, her laptop set up in Alex's office and several folders of documents spread across his desk. "Oh good, you're here," Patricia said when Maya entered. "I'm just organizing some of Alex's files. You know how scattered he can be with his paperwork." Maya knew that Alex was actually quite organized, but she didn't contradict Patricia. Instead, she went about her regular cleaning routine while keeping a careful eye on what Patricia was doing. The designer appeared to be photographing documents with her phone, particularly anything related to the scholarship program and Alex's financial records. "Patricia, do you need anything?" Maya asked, approaching the desk with a dust cloth. I can come back later if you need privacy for your work. No, this is perfect. I actually could use your help, Patricia said with a smile that made Maya's stomach turn. You know Alex better than anyone. Has he seemed stressed lately? Worried about money? Maya kept her expression neutral. He seems fine to me. Why do you ask? Oh, just wondering. He's been asking me to delay some of the renovation work, citing budget concerns. It's unusual for him to worry about money, given his resources. Patricia was watching Maya's face carefully as she spoke. I wouldn't know about his finances, Maya said. That's not my business. Of course not, Patricia agreed. That you do have access to his office, his computer, his personal spaces. You must notice things, even if you don't mean to. Maya realized that Patricia was fishing for information, trying to determine if Maya might be a threat to her plan. I focus on my work, Maya said firmly. I don't pay attention to things that aren't my concern. Patricia seemed satisfied with this response and returned to her document photography. Maya continued cleaning, but she was memorizing everything she saw, the specific papers Patricia was interested in, the file she was accessing, the way she was positioning documents for her photos. That afternoon, after Patricia had left, Maya made her own careful examination of Alex's office. She noticed that several financial documents had been moved slightly from their original positions, and Alex's computer showed recent activity in folders related to his charitable foundation. Most concerning was the discovery of what appeared to be a small recording device hidden behind a picture frame near Alex's desk. Maya carefully photographed the device with her phone before leaving it in place, not wanting to alert Patricia that her surveillance had been detected. She also took pictures of the disorganized files and made notes about which documents Patricia had been most interested in. On Tuesday, Patricia returned with a man Maya didn't recognize, a thin, nervous-looking individual who introduced himself as David Parker, a forensic accountant. David is helping me with some research for a project, Patricia explained. He'll be examining some of Alex's financial records to help with the office redesign budgeting. Maya knew immediately that this was a lie. Forensic accountants weren't involved in interior design projects. This was clearly part of Patricia's scheme to create evidence of financial impropriety. I'll need privacy for this work, David said, barely making eye contact with Maya. Financial records are confidential. Of course, Maya replied. I'll work on the other floors today. But instead of going to the upper floors, Maya positioned herself in the kitchen, where she could monitor the comings and goings from Alex's office through the security system's closed-circuit television monitors. Margaret was at the grocery store, and Carlos was working in the back gardens, leaving Maya alone to observe what Patricia and David were doing. Through the security cameras, Maya watched as the two worked systematically through Alex's files, photographing documents and occasionally making notes on a laptop. She saw David insert a USB drive into Alex's computer multiple times, apparently copying files or possibly installing software. Around 3 o'clock, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Alex. How are things going? Any problems while I'm away? Maya stared at the phone, torn between her desire to warn Alex immediately and her knowledge that she needed more concrete evidence before making accusations. She typed back, Everything is fine. House is secure. Looking forward to your return. It was a lie, but Maya knew that alerting Alex prematurely might cause Patricia to abandon her plan without facing consequences, only to try again later when Maya might not be in a position to stop her. That evening, Maya drove home to Bridgeport with her mind racing. She had enough evidence to prove that Patricia was up to something suspicious, but she still didn't have proof of the specific crime being planned. She needed to catch Patricia in the act of creating false evidence or hear her discuss the details of her scheme. Mama, you look tired, Jasmine said when Maya picked her up from Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment. Was work hard today? Just busy, sweetheart, Maya replied, hugging her daughter tightly. But everything's going to be okay. As they walked to their car, Maya made a silent promise to herself and to Jasmine. She would protect Alex from Patricia's betrayal, even if it meant risking her job. Some things were more important than financial security, and doing the right thing was one of them. Wednesday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching Maya's mood as she prepared for what she knew would be a crucial day. Alex was scheduled to return from California that evening, and Maya sensed that Patricia would make her move soon. The designer had been increasingly bold in her activities, and Maya had noticed that several key financial documents were now missing from Alex's filing system. Maya arrived at the estate early, at 7 o'clock instead of her usual 7:30. She wanted to sweep Alex's office for any additional surveillance devices and to document the current state of his files before Patricia arrived. As she worked, she kept her phone ready to record any conversations that might provide the evidence she needed. Patricia arrived at 8:30 with David Parker and another man Maya didn't recognize, a well-dressed individual in his 50s who introduced himself as Robert Sterling, an attorney. Maya's heart sank as she realized the scope of what was happening. This wasn't just about creating fake evidence. Patricia had assembled a team of professionals to execute her plan. Maya, we'll need complete privacy today, Patricia said with authority. We're conducting a financial audit for insurance purposes, and confidentiality is crucial. I'll need you to work on the third floor and avoid this area entirely. Maya nodded obediently, but she had no intention of following Patricia's instructions. Instead, she positioned herself in the adjacent library, where she could hear conversations from the office through the shared ventilation system. She also had a clear view of the office entrance through the library's doorway. For the next 2 hours, Maya listened as the three conspirators worked to construct their case against Alex. The conversation was damning, and Maya recorded every word on her phone. The beauty of this approach, Robert Sterling was saying, is that we're not actually stealing money. We're just creating the appearance that Alex has been misappropriating charitable funds for personal use. The documentation will show transfers from the scholarship account to his personal expenses, home renovations, travel, entertainment. But those are legitimate business expenses, David Parker objected. He can prove they weren't personal. That's the genius of it, Patricia interjected. By the time he proves his innocence, his reputation will be destroyed. The initial allegations will be enough to damage his credibility with investors and donors. He'll settle out of court to avoid the publicity, and we'll walk away with a significant payout. Maya's hands were shaking as she held her phone, but she kept recording. The three continued discussing their plan in detail, including how they would leak the allegations to financial media outlets and how they would approach Alex with their demands. What about the staff? David asked. The housekeeper, the cook, the others, they might notice something suspicious. Patricia laughed dismissively. Maya is a single mother from Bridgeport who barely finished high school. She's not going to understand financial documents or legal proceedings. She's too worried about keeping her job to ask questions. The others are equally unlikely to cause problems. Maya felt anger surge through her at Patricia's condescending words, but she forced herself to remain calm and keep recording. This was exactly the kind of evidence she needed to prove Patricia's malicious intent. At 11 o'clock, Alex called Maya's phone. Hey, I'm going to be landing a few hours early. My last meeting got canceled, so I'll be home around 2 instead of 6. How are things there? Maya looked toward the office, where she could see Patricia and her accomplices working at Alex's desk. Things are busy, she said carefully. Patricia and some colleagues are here working on the renovation project. Oh good, she's making progress. I'll see you when I get home. Maya hung up and realized she had less than 3 hours to decide how to handle the situation. She could confront Patricia directly, but that would put her in physical danger and might allow the conspirators to escape. She could call the police, but she wasn't sure they would take her seriously without more substantial evidence of an actual crime. Then she had an idea. She quickly made her way to Alex's office, where the three were deep in conversation over financial documents spread across his desk. Excuse me, Maya said, knocking on the doorframe. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Alex just called. He's coming home early. He'll be here in about 2 hours. The effect was immediate. Patricia's face went pale, and David Parker started frantically gathering papers. 2 hours? Patricia demanded. Are you sure? Yes, his flight landed early, Maya confirmed, watching their reactions carefully. We need to finish this now, Robert Sterling said urgently. Can you complete the document alterations in that time? If we work fast, David replied, his fingers flying over his laptop keyboard. Maya excused herself and returned to the library, but she kept her phone recording. The pressure of Alex's imminent return was causing the conspirators to work more quickly and speak more carelessly about their illegal activities. Over the next hour, Maya documented everything: the altered financial records, the falsified invoices, the planted evidence that would make it appear Alex had been stealing from his own charity. She photographed documents through the office window and recorded conversations that explicitly detailed the conspiracy. At 1:30, Maya received another call from Alex. I'm in the car, about 20 minutes away. Everything okay? Alex, Maya said, making her decision. I need to talk to you as soon as you get home. It's urgent. Please come to the library first, before you go to your office. Is everything all right? You sound worried. Just please trust me. Come to the library first. When Alex arrived at the estate 20 minutes later, Maya was waiting in the library with her phone, her photographs, and her notes. Through the window, she could see Patricia's car still in the driveway. Maya, what's going on? Alex asked as he entered the library, concern evident in his voice. Alex, I need you to listen to me very carefully, Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Patricia and the men with her aren't here for renovation work. They're here to frame you for embezzling money from your charity. Alex's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, and then growing anger as Maya played the recordings and showed him the photographs she had taken. When she finished presenting her evidence, Alex sat in stunned silence for several minutes. I can't believe this, he finally said. Patricia has been working with my family for years. I trusted her completely. I know, Maya said softly, but the evidence is all here. They've been planning this for weeks, maybe longer. They're going to try to blackmail you with false allegations. Alex looked at Maya with an expression she had never seen before, a mixture of gratitude, respect, and something that might have been awe. You risked everything to protect me. Why? Maya thought about her answer for a moment. Because you treated me like a human being from the first day I walked through your door. Because you saw my worth when others didn't. Because you're using your privilege to help kids like my daughter, and the world needs more people like you. Alex stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where Carlos was working, oblivious to the drama unfolding inside the house. What do we do now? He asked. We call the police, Maya said. We let them handle it from here. The next few hours passed in a blur of police interviews, evidence collection, and the satisfaction of watching Patricia, David Parker, and Robert Sterling led away in handcuffs. The detective in charge of the case, Lieutenant Maria Santos, praised Maya's thoroughness in documenting the conspiracy. Without your recordings and photographs, this would have been a very difficult case to prosecute, Lieutenant Santos told Maya as they wrapped up the evidence collection. They could have destroyed Alex's reputation and walked away with millions in settlement money. Patricia's final words as she was escorted to the police car were directed at Maya. You have no idea what you've done. You've ruined everything for a man who will never see you as anything more than the help. Maya didn't respond, but Alex did. Patricia, Maya isn't the help. She's the person who saved my life and my livelihood. She's someone I'm proud to call my friend. In the weeks that followed, the story made headlines throughout Connecticut and beyond. Housekeeper exposes $1 million fraud scheme, read the headline in the Hartford Courant. The New York Times ran a feature story about Maya titled, The Unlikely Hero Who Chose Justice Over Job Security. But for Maya, the real reward came in smaller, more personal moments. Alex insisted on giving her a substantial bonus and a raise, but more importantly, he made good on his earlier promise to support Jasmine's education. He set up a college fund for her and arranged for her to participate in a special summer program for gifted students interested in engineering and technology. Mama, Mr. Alex says I can come visit his office anytime I want to see how computers work, Jasmine announced one evening as they sat at their kitchen table working on homework. He says maybe I can help him test some of his education programs. Maya smiled, watching her daughter's excitement. That sounds wonderful, baby. But remember, you have to keep working hard in school. I will, Mama. I want to be like Mr. Alex someday, helping kids who don't have good schools. 3 months after the incident, Alex hosted a celebration at the estate to mark the launch of his new education technology platform. The party was attended by educators, tech industry leaders, and community activists from across Connecticut. But the guests who mattered most to Maya were the ones Alex had specifically invited. Her neighbors from Bridgeport, Margaret's family from Ireland, Carlos's extended family, and other working-class people who rarely got to attend such events. Maya found herself standing in the same garden where she had first worried about fitting in, but now she was wearing a beautiful dress that Alex had insisted on buying for her. And she was surrounded by friends and colleagues who respected her and valued her contributions. You know, Alex said, approaching Maya as she watched Jasmine play with other children on the estate's lawn. I've been thinking about that day when you first came for the interview. You were so nervous, but you carried yourself with such dignity. I knew then that you were special, but I had no idea how special. Maya turned to face him, still sometimes surprised by the genuine friendship that had developed between them. I was terrified, she admitted. I thought you'd take one look at me and decide I wasn't what you were looking for. The irony is that you were exactly what I was looking for, someone with integrity, courage, and the wisdom to know right from wrong. Those aren't qualities you can put on a resume. As the evening progressed, Maya found herself in conversations with people she had only read about in newspapers, tech entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and social activists. But what struck her most was how naturally these conversations flowed, how her experiences and insights were valued and respected. Dr. Jennifer Williams, the Dean of Education at Yale University, sought Maya out specifically. Alex has told me about your role in exposing the fraud, but he's also told me about your insights into educational inequality. I'd like to discuss the possibility of you joining our advisory board for community outreach programs. Maya was stunned. I don't have a college degree, she said. I'm not sure I'd be qualified for something like that. You have something more valuable than a degree, Dr. Williams replied. You have lived experience and the ability to bridge different worlds. That's exactly what we need. Later that evening, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Alex asked Maya to join him in his office. The room had been completely renovated since the incident with Patricia, but more importantly, it felt different, lighter, more hopeful. I have something for you, Alex said, handing Maya an envelope. It's not just a thank you, it's an investment in the future. Maya opened the envelope to find a letter of acceptance to the University of Connecticut's adult education program, along with a full scholarship that would cover tuition, books, and living expenses for her to pursue a degree in social work or education. Alex, I can't accept this, Maya said, tears forming in her eyes. It's too much. It's not too much. It's what you've earned through your intelligence, your courage, and your commitment to doing what's right. Besides, he added with a smile, I'm going to need someone with your skills to help run the community outreach division of my foundation. Consider this job training. Maya looked around the office where so much had happened, where she had first felt respected and valued, where she had discovered a conspiracy that could have destroyed a good man, where she had made the decision to risk everything for the sake of justice. There's one condition, Maya said finally. Jasmine gets to keep coming to the summer programs and weekend activities. She loves it here, and she's learning so much. Jasmine is welcome here anytime, Alex assured her. In fact, I was hoping she might be interested in being one of the first kids to test the new educational software we're developing. We could use someone with her intelligence and curiosity. 6 months later, Maya walked across the stage at the University of Connecticut to receive her bachelor's degree in social work. In the audience, Alex sat next to Jasmine, Margaret, Carlos, and Mrs. Rodriguez, all cheering loudly as Maya's name was called. The local newspaper ran a story about her graduation, focusing on her journey from housekeeper to college graduate to social justice advocate. But for Maya, the most meaningful moment came afterward, at the small celebration Alex hosted at the estate. As she looked around at the faces of people who had become her chosen family, people from different backgrounds, different races, different economic circumstances, but united in their respect for each other and their commitment to making the world better, she realized that she had found something she had never dared to hope for. She had found a place where she belonged, not despite who she was, but because of who she was. She had found work that mattered, relationships that sustained her, and a future full of possibilities for herself and her daughter. Thank you, she said to Alex as they stood on the terrace overlooking the gardens where Carlos had taught Jasmine about sustainable farming techniques. For what? Alex asked. For seeing me, Maya replied. For treating me like I mattered from the very first day. For showing me that there are people in this world who judge others by their character rather than their circumstances. Alex smiled and raised his glass of champagne. Thank you for showing me what real courage looks like. Thank you for risking everything to do what was right. And thank you for teaching me that the most valuable people in our lives are often the ones we least expect. As the sun set over the Connecticut countryside, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Maya felt a profound sense of peace. Her journey from the anxious woman who had stood at the estate gates 2 years earlier to the confident social worker and community advocate she had become was complete, but it was also just the beginning. Jasmine ran up to them, her face flushed with excitement from playing with the other children. Mama, Mr. Alex says I can help him write a computer program that will teach kids about solar energy. Can I do it? Maya hugged her daughter tightly, marveling at the confidence and enthusiasm that had blossomed in her over the past 2 years. Of course you can, baby girl. You can do anything you set your mind to. As the three of them stood together, watching the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky, Maya knew that they had created something beautiful and lasting, a friendship that transcended race and class, a partnership dedicated to justice and opportunity, and a future where children like Jasmine could dream big and achieve those dreams. The story that had begun with suspicion and prejudice had evolved into one of trust, respect, and mutual support. It was a testament to the power of seeing beyond surface differences to recognize the fundamental humanity that connects all people, and to the courage required to stand up for what is right, even when the cost might be everything you hold dear. In the end, Maya had saved more than Alex's reputation and fortune. She had saved his faith in humanity. And in return, he had given her something equally precious, the knowledge that her worth had never been in question, and that her voice, her insights, and her courage mattered in ways she was only beginning to understand. Their story became a reminder that justice and equality aren't abstract concepts. but daily choices made by individuals who decide to treat each other with dignity and respect, regardless of the color of their skin or the size of their bank account. It was a story of hope in a world that often seems divided, and proof that bridges of understanding can be built by anyone willing to take the first step across the divide.